Ambazonia revolution, Dr. Ayaba Lucas, has been arrested in Norway. And his arrest comes as no coincidence because at the same time he was being arrested or he was being kidnapped by the government of Norway, that's the same time Benedict Kwa of the Ambazonia Defense Forces, his home was being raided alongside one other, which I will not call or whom I will not call his name for some security reason. It is no coincidence. The same minute, the same second, the same hour, his home was being raided. That is the same hour Dr. Ayaba Lucas' home was being raided in the afternoon and he was being picked up. Now, this comes in with some high-level authority. It is a cross-country. It is an inter-country raid. The United States is probably responsible for this. And those who are calling the shots are bigger than you and I. It could be the ICC. It could be any international organization that has been petitioned against the people of Ambazonia. It could be anyone. But I want to tell you this. Dr. Ayaba Lucas is working with the Cameroon regime. He's a spy working for the Cameroon government. He is a La Republique agent. His ADF is an extension of the Cameroon military. His Ambazonia governing forces is a ploy to destabilize the Ambazonia revolution. And I thank God for this happening. And I thank God for the arrest of Dr. Ayaba Lucas. And I will explain why. He has been arrested. And this comes in handy to fulfill the message. Una sabi say people, they don't start fear. A lot of fear, panic, don't get into this revolution. They don't try all way for position themselves to Canada. I hear a conference they take place for Canada. On what grounds will I go really go for Canada, go the whole conference? Oh Lord, Ambazonians there. They think they dull a sheep. On what grounds you go whole conference? I want the hungry power on a hungry for tea and croissant. When I want to chop croissant, when I come to give a croissant. When I go chop tea and croissant for Canada. Oh, Canadian, oh, let's go to Canada. We'll go to dialogue. We are empty coconut heads. You are going to go and sit there with who? With who? To talk about what? You get how many forces on the ground? Now, laissez-moi, je parle en français ou je parle. Si je voulais expliquer en français, vous allez au Canada pour chercher quoi? Pour chercher, on a cherché. Pour chercher quoi? Pour parler à qui? The thing is surprised me. When I go to Canada, for go sit down for talk so with you like, oh, as the leader of Ambazonia, we can do these things so that Ambazonia. I mean, like, I see these clowns, I laugh. I really laugh. Person sit down for on site. Person, some idiot sit down for on site. He goes scam US government money, scam international NGOs money, say one organized conference. This is what they do. I know the game they play. This is the game. I worked for the UN. Not before any kind of position. Google my name. I worked in one of the highest positions for UN as the head of communication. So I know exactly the game these people play. They go and sit, write some grants or write some nonsense and request for money to hold dialogue for some conflict happening that they have no mastery of. Oh, please, can you give us just 50 million? We want to organize a conference and we'll call a few leaders in America to come and sit and let's pretend as if we're talking. We justify it and then we sign that, oh, we held a conference and it was okay. These are the resolutions. That's it. Paperwork tiger, paper tigers. That's how they operate. That I keep saying it every day in. The first and the only person who stood against the Swiss talks. Now who? Natapang Ivo. Where's the Swiss talks today? You don't die, right? The same thing I tell when I know waste from that time. I know conflicts to my fingertips. I know exactly how they pan out. I have written papers about the processes of conflicts. And so when I tell when something when I understand and clearly, these people, these organizers of Swiss, Canada, you will hear a new one tomorrow, maybe Ottawa conference. You'll hear all those names, Helsinki conference. These people, how they operate, I mean the organizers, how they operate, they go knock at the doors of Washington, D.C., will knock at the doors of Paris, knock at the doors of Birmingham and say, hey, I am of this category. I want to organize this conference that would address the people, the conflict in Cameroon, not even Ambazonia, but in Cameroon, so that peace can return to the northwest and southwest regions. Okay, money granted. Let's say 50 million granted. 50 million granted. They hold the 50 million. They come now to America, take a flight or get visas. The visas here is we are organizing a conference in Canada. We are going to America to meet some leaders and try to talk to them so that they can fly over to Canada. From that 50 million, we'll pay their flights. We'll give them 1,000. They pay their flights and come to Canada. That's how they operate. Strategy number two, they go get visas. They come now to America. Come and sit. Hey, Ivo, who's are you there? Are they fine? I say, how are you? No, man. I don't mean a long time. I say, yes. I say, how are you? What's the upward they coming today? Oh, we go Canada. I beg if you come for conference for Canada. I say, conference, where's it? Oh, Cameroon, we have some conference about the Ambazonia, this thing. Come for Ambazonia. Strategy number two, I'm talking reality facts. I received the calls. Strategy number two. Number three, yeah, we'll hold a conference. I just came for Canada since one gather some leaders. I said, okay, so what's the conference about? Oh, no one talk about this Ambazonia thing. I said, no, I'm not interested. Sorry, I'm not be interested. I dropped the call. Guess what? 2 months later, they say, oh, this people that go Canada. Who are the people? Sako Kome, Christopher Anos, John Bakuro, all those clowns that they head to Canada. When they go for Canada, go Shidon, guess what? The organizers don't pay their flight. They give the 1,000, they give the N-man 1,000, they pay flight, they come, they lodge them for hotel. The person where organize that conference, if he initially take 50 million, he not go spend up to 10 million for that 50 million or up to 20 million for that 50 million. He don't make more cheese, burger, he dress up table, he put bread, croissant, he put small mimbo for all my table. Any man chop, 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 they make and they say notes taken, notes taken, notes taken. After that, they make a small one-page resolution. Okay, this is what is happening. And guess what? When I go reach for Canada on that day, for the Saturday, when I say no, the agenda now for Cameroon conflict. That's when they start telling you the real agenda of the thing. When they call you on phone, they say, no, 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 Ambazonian thing we want to address them. Time we don't reach now for Canada, they can tell you, say, no, the agenda been a Cameroon. You're seeing for agenda resolving the Cameroon conflict. They're not going to mention the word, I feel bet you my life, I feel bet you my kidneys. They're not going to mention the word Ambazonia, nothing. Now, they go invite the other parties from Cameroon. Prime Minister for Cameroon, they will come for day. They'll invite Canada ambassador to Cameroon. He go there for day. Guess what? Not just a charade for justify money where they don't swallow them inside their pockets and for justify. Say these are the processes that we are taking to make sure that the conflict, okay, everything goes well. We know those things. We know the game. And you are falling for it. Now, hungry they do enough America. When I come, I take when I go restaurant. When I go chop for restaurant for free, we get buffet restaurant, Chinese buffet themselves. Now hungry they do now. Why would I like power too much? Oh, you want to position yourself. I want to position myself. I must be the leader of this. Why? Why? The spoil one from mommy side or papa side on a neighbor side because neighbor to the boy begin mommy. Neighbor spoil one. I know I don't get it. I don't get it. And you are excited about it. All of them are clowns. Full stop. Jamais. When you want to see clowns, they like conferences, conference by conference. Conference will never give you independence. Never.
Government. They could only be exercised by Whitehall. So you see, when La République du Cameroon met with the government of Dr. John Gufoncha in Foumban in July to discuss the external relations of southern Cameroon. They were John Gufoncha was violating the constitution over which he was appointed premier because he swore allegiance to Her Majesty the Queen of England, together with all the ministers. And if they had to do, they had no competence over matters which were excluded from the order in council. So if Dr. John Gufoncha went to a foreign country like La République du Cameroon in Foumban to discuss arrangements for the future of southern Cameroon, he was acting unconstitutionally. Because take for example, the governor here has no constitutional authority to go and discuss with the governor of the Cross River State in a foreign country. That is unconstitutional. He has first got to go to his minister who would seek clearance from the president before, if the president agrees, he will then give authority for these discussions to take place. So without the concurrence of the British government, which reserved the powers over foreign relations to itself, John Go Foncha was acting unconstitutionally.
So my country people them, when I don't hear what the way Mola N.litumbe talk, make I just pick one or 2 points them. So it talks about it without the concurrence, without the agreement of the British, anything where John Go Foncha it be do it be unconstitutional. Say John Go Foncha no be get the competence or the legal instrument for discuss the foreign affairs or external relations of the Southern Cameroons, because the order in council or the so-called Southern Cameroons constitution, it be spell out the powers of the premier, and the British, they be hang on or they be retain the power of external relations or foreign affairs and defense. That power, that the power of sovereignty, that. And now why that way, at the beginning of this video, Mola N.litumbe talk say, the instruments of power were handed to President Amadou Ahidjo, not Foncha. That instrument of power, now the instruments of power will give that territory the supreme authority for govern that territory. Now what did they call them? Say sovereignty. So Mola N.litumbe, it get the reason why it bring this truth and this reality out. Because in one way, it challenged their whole argument. Because it claim, say, Amadou Ahidjo or say John Go Foncha, it no be get the competence, it no be get the powers for discuss the external relations or foreign affairs of Southern Cameroons. That power, it be lie now in the hands of the British. That power, they call them say sovereignty. And he then conclude and say that sovereignty for that territory, it be handed over to President Amadou Ahidjo. What document do we have to prove that? It is called the Exchange of Notes, the international agreement between the British government and President Amadou Ahidjo, two sovereign nations. Now, why that way? Pa Mola N.litumbe no go ever make una know say some exchange of notes exists and an international agreement. So their own argument falls apart when you examine them, they themselves. But the reason why it bring this point, say President Amadou Ahidjo or say John Go Foncha, it no be get the competence, it no be get the constitutional authority for discuss the foreign relations of the Southern Cameroons. Why they bring that argument? Now because say ye own argument a lie on the fact that he want people then for believe say there was no union. Now he argument that say union no happen. He want for talk say whatever discussion with Foncha and Ahidjo they be get them, it no be constitutional and it no be legal because say John Go Foncha no be get the legal authority for discuss the foreign affairs of Southern Cameroons. Wait till you no tell una now who be get the powers for discuss the foreign affairs of Southern Cameroons. Now the British. Now the same British where they signed the exchange of notes with President Amadou Ahidjo for hand over that powers, the powers of foreign affairs and the military and defense. When they talk about defense, they talk about the military. The British, they hand over that power and authority to President Amadou Ahidjo. Now, why that will come 1st of October 1961, President Amadou Ahidjo will get the powers and the authority for march the army into the Southern Cameroons, control the defense of that territory, control the sovereignty of that territory, because that sovereignty it will be transferred to President Amadou Ahidjo by the British. So even though Mola N.litumbe be right in saying that Foncha it no be get the authority for discuss the foreign affairs of the Southern Cameroons, but the British they be get that authority. And if the British they delegate some person for do something on their behalf, then it will be done. The Queen of England herself, enough she don't discuss one-on-one with President Amadou Ahidjo about the future of Southern Cameroons. No, the Queen of England, if it delegate ye emissary, ye representative, for example, the British ambassador for Yaoundé, now he be lead the delegation and all of those things for sign the exchange of notes, because it represents the British government. The Queen herself no necessarily need for be there, as long as your deputy or your emissary or your ambassador or your representative, where you get the powers, where the Queen, it don't bestow those powers on you. And why that way, some things that they would need for understanding for Cameroon. Some things that they way, the Cameroon High Commissioner for London fit do in the United Kingdom, where the Prime Minister no fit do, because the Cameroon High Commissioner for London, it get which way they call them, say letters of credence, where it be presented to him by the head of state, where it give you authority for discuss Cameroon's sovereignty, for discuss Cameroon's powers, and for enter Cameroon into international agreements. But where the Prime Minister of the Republic no get those powers, even though you just been an ambassador or the High Commission for London or High Commissioner. So we need to understand how the international systems and diplomacy they work. Recently, I hear some people that they talk about say why a Minister for External Relations, Lejeune Belambela, it will represent President Paul Biya for United Nations 79th session for General Assembly. Why no be Prime Minister representing? Prime Minister get a role. Minister for External Relations get a role. Minister for External Relations get certain powers for enter Cameroon into international treaties where it go bind Cameroon, the whole country, nation of Cameroon. It go get responsibility for obey and respect that international treaty where Minister of Territorial, Minister of External Relations, they enter into because of the powers bestowed upon him by the appointment. Whereas the Prime Minister no get certain powers. If the Prime Minister want go represent Cameroon, it need to take special authorization from the President. Make una understand that. Yes, the Prime Minister will represent the head of state in international organizations if he even sign international treaties on behalf of the government, but it could need authorization from the head of state for do that. So when I understand there is a now wait this way, when I talk about sovereignty, the powers for enter into international agreements, the powers for defense, because when you make a law, you need for fit defend that law. You need an army, a military for protect the sovereignty of that state. And now why that way? The people, the way they claim, say they don't get union treaty. Those same people then, like Mola N.litumbe, where they claim, say no union treaty, no day. Now the same Mola N.litumbe this way, Eddie talk say, John Go Foncha, it no be get the powers for enter into international treaty with Ahidjo. Now you talk him. You talk him, say the sovereignty, the powers, it be transferred to President Amadou Ahidjo, not John Go Foncha. Now wait that way you talk. So how can you claim, say you want to see a union treaty, at the same time, you did talk say, Ahidjo no be get, Foncha, it no be get the powers for enter into international treaties with Ahidjo, which is true. Foncha no be get that power because it no be own the sovereignty of that territory. So now the British way they behold the sovereignty of the territory, now them be get the powers for enter into an international agreement with the Republic of Cameroon, President Amadou Ahidjo. Now why that way the exchange of notes it be signed between President Amadou Ahidjo and the British government for hand over sovereignty of the former British Southern Cameroon to the Republic of Cameroon for 1961. Precisely the 27th of September 1961, that exchange of notes, international treaty, ABB signed between these two sovereign nations. The United Kingdom on one hand, President Amadou Ahidjo, Cameroon government on the other hand, they hand over the sovereignty of the former British Southern Cameroons. Now my contributor them, I will play for now this next video, where this one now Professor Carlson Anyangwe Egu talk, repeating exactly the same point. So no not just my opinion. This one now an avenue or now a point where we all agree. Whether you be separatist, you be unionist, you be federalist, you be Cameroonian for French Cameroon or Anglophone Cameroon, all we will agree on the fact say the sovereignty of the former British Southern Cameroons, it was transferred from the British to President Amadou Ahidjo for Yaoundé. When I listen to Professor Carlson Anyangwe, where they talk for 2008. When I listen.
Boasted that the British themselves boasted that on that 1st of October, at the moment, the British House of Commons was meeting, the instruments of transfer of sovereignty over the Southern Cameroon had been handed to Mr. Ahijo, who was the president of La République de Cameroon. Now you find a very curious situation. Here is a country which is supposed to be decolonized. And decolonization meant that sovereignty over the colonial territory should be handed over the people of that territory. That never happened. The British, by their own admission, handed sovereignty over the Southern Cameroons to La République de Cameroon. What does that mean? In concrete legal terms, it meant that as the British left, the Southern Cameroon was handed over to a successor colonialist. So the Southern Cameroon situation is a situation of continuing colonial rule. We had the Germans who came there, the British who came there, now continuing colonial rule. And that is the crux. That is the issue. When we talk about the Southern Cameroon's issue, we're talking about the decolonization of the Southern Cameroon, which was never achieved. Forget about all the protestations of the British government, claiming that they did a decent job. They never did any decent job. Forget about all the United Nations turning it back on the Southern Cameroons. The United Nations messed up the Southern Cameroon decolonization process. And I would suggest that if there's any lingering credibility on the part of the United Nations, this is one of the issues they will need to address. And the sooner they do that, the better.
So, my country people, them, when I don't hear where Professor Carlson Anyangwe talk, they just repeat the truth. Say the British, they tell them, because they don't contact the British, the UK Parliament, and all of these people, the United Nations and the rest, and they don't tell them. Say the sovereignty of that territory was transferred from the British to President Amadou Ahijo. They don't tell them. And now when Professor Carlson Anyangwe the talk say, the British, they brag in their parliament, they tell them in communiques, letters them. They don't tell them. Say the decolonization of that territory has been completed. And the British, they don't tell them, say they did their job. So now, according to Carlson Anyangwe, the argument now say the British did not do a good job. Their argument now say the United Nations, it turned it back on the people of former Southern Cameroons. Now here is the question. Why would they blame Francophone Cameroon? What has President Amadou Ahijo got to do about this? When they declare and say, now the United Nations fail una, now the British they fail una. So why would I want blame Francophone Cameroon? So what is the remedy? What is the way forward? That is the question. The people then for former British Southern Cameroons now they be stuck because there is no remedy. You can never go back for go undo which may be happened from 1961. And now why that way every single person where they don't talk to, international experts, whether Rebecca Tinsley, Thibault Nagy, and every other person at the United Nations, from the Secretary General Kofi Annan, Ban Ki-moon, Antonio Guterres, all the previous ones, they don't go for the United States Congress. They don't talk to people for the EU, African Union. All them don't tell them. Say, the decolonization of the former British Southern Cameroons has been completed. What exists today, now one country with one sovereignty. So if we now want to get a voice inside that country, we now go form political party, challenge the central government in elections. That's all. Anything else where they want to do them now, it will be trying to separate Cameroon, where it will get legal ramifications in Nigeria. Go try to separate Nigeria as well. So the international community don't tell them unequivocally, say you are just shooting blanks. You are making noise. No one on the international scene is going to listen to your argument. It doesn't hold water. It no go ever work. So now they become frustrated. So now, how else you go want the United Nations to come enter for decolonize the former British Southern Cameroons when at the United Nations they tell when I say they don't already decolonize that territory? So who are you going to talk to? Who is going to listen to you? But for this live broadcast, we now go get more information. We will understand how we end up, what's the way we end up with ambassador terrorism. Why people they continue for they tell all these lies them where they don't they talk them all this while. My contribute them. So I will go now go play the second video for Mola N.litumbe. I go talk and then I go bring on my own analysis and explain other things my contribution. So when I bear with me, make I load the video and then I go. Now bear with me. I also get small cough. So if me at the talk at the cough, now bear with me. Now I will try my best for deliver the information while I bring a phone. So now Mola N.litumbe this for video number 2. When I listen, it will talk about the Foumban Constitutional Conference for 1961, and then I go bring my own rebuttal. When I listen, my contributor.
This is exactly what Dr. John Gufoncha pretended, and the members of his delegation pretended to do in Foumban. Okay. In any event, the discussions were inconclusive. They were seeing the constitution, which Foncha had even not shown to his members of his delegation until they got to Foumban. I think it was Namason Bile who said we went to London for 3 weeks to draw up a constitution for Southern Cameroon. Now we are trying to discuss here a constitution for the Federal Republic of Cameroon incorporating 2 states. And we are here only for 3 days. Ahijo was annoyed because he had given the advance copy to Foncha. But in discussions with him, he said, well, boy, you see, if I am not there, you will be the president of a much bigger country. I will be president, you will be vice president. And Foncha believed him. It was a dirty trick. Ahijo went back to his parliament, convened it, Parliament of La Republic of Cameroon, and passed Law 24/61 in August of 1961, establishing what he termed the Federal Republic of Cameroon. La République du Cameroon went to Foumban as a sovereign state. Foncha came as a colonial dependency of Great Britain, which had no power to negotiate the future of Southern Cameroon without the concurrence of the British government. So whatever they discussed in Foumban, in my opinion, is irrelevant. It was not between 2 people of equal capacity.
So my contributor them, when I don't hear what way Mola N.litumbe talk and say, whatever they discussed in Foumban, it no be binding in the opinion because they were not 2 people of equal capacity. So in the talk say, President Amadou Ahidjo became for Foumban as a head of state of a sovereign nation, while John Gufoncha became as a premier of a colonized territory. But now the same people, then this way they can't talk about how they be supposed to create a federation of 2 equal status or 2 states of equal status or whatever nonsense. Equal in what way? You yourself, your own argument don't fall apart. One party in that discussion for Foumban was a sovereign state with a seat at the United Nations, with an army controlling sovereignty. The other part was a colonized territory where the British, they be deem and say it not be viable for be independent on its own. So how when I go claim, say when I be one for get a federation of 2 states of equal status, when we will say for una own argument when I talk say one party, it not be get the competence and it not become prepared, they not be get the sovereignty. So what equality were you talking about? We were never equal. Because one party was clearly more superior. President Amadou Ahidjo was more superior. Even in the discussion, what maybe happened. For Foumban Constitutional Conference, the people then for the former Southern Cameroons, they become with a delegation of about 50-something people. Whereas President Amadou Ahidjo, the delegation will become for Foumban, now them 12. I think them 12 or 15, if I'm not mistaken. And for this presentation, when I go hear Mola N.litumbe, it will expand on that. It will explain some of the shortcomings where it be happened for that Foumban Constitutional Conference. President Amadou Ahidjo, for your delegation, it be get advisors, specialists in constitutional law. People the way it begged them, they come up from France. white people, Europeans, they can advise you for that conference, how to build a country. Whereas Django Foncha for your own side, it no be even agree for show the constitution, because before President Amadou Ahidjo one come for Foumban Constitutional Conference, if we don't draft a constitution, it present that constitution to the British. It present a copy to to Django Foncha. Amadou Ahidjo came there prepared to do business. But the people then for the former British Southern Cameroons, they become for day with nothing. So if President Amadou Ahidjo become there with a draft constitution, who saw the draft constitution where the people then for Southern Cameroons they be bring them? No, they come them empty hand. 50 something of them, they come empty hand and empty head. So who do you blame for that? You know, if you blame President Amadou Ahidjo, even even mola and N.litumbe, they talking for years. President Amadou Ahidjo was annoyed. He be angry because before anyone come for Foumban, for can discuss the constitution, if we don't give them the constitution for Foncha, he tell Django Foncha, say, go and discuss this constitution. Go and look at it with your own party, with your own side for Southern Cameroon.